Grizzly. At Grizzly, we believe charging your electric vehicle should be simple, reliable, and affordable. That's why we design, engineer, and build our chargers in Canada, ensuring top-tier quality and performance. Powered by United Chargers, every Grizzly model is crafted in-house, built to withstand extreme conditions, and tested for reliability. Recognized by leading publications for its performance and value, Grizzly delivers both durability and intelligence with heavy-duty aluminum enclosures, premium output cables, and smart charging features like scheduling, usage tracking, and OCPP compatibility with multiple charging apps. Grizzly. Simple, reliable, affordable, built for every climate, every EV, everywhere you go. Visit grizzly.com to learn more.
Hello and welcome along to the Batteries Included podcast. It's Friday, June 27th, and this is episode 94. Today, Aptera's complete validation vehicle is ready to rock and roll, and our YouTube viewers will already see our special guest this week. Tesla Robotaxi's program kicked off, and Mercedes AMG reveal the concept AMG GT XX, and much, much more. I'm your host, Martin Lee, from the EV News Daily podcast. Joining us, as always, Dominic Yoni, pushing the buttons, long-time EV journalist and host of the YouTube channel Drive Electric with Dominic. Our regular co-host, Tom Malogany, from YouTube State of Charge, is en route right now, behind the wheel. He's road tripping a Cadillac Escalade IQ. And I've mentioned it already, our very special guest is co-founder and co-CEO of Aptera, Steve Fambro. Steve, welcome back. It's good to have you. It's been a couple of years, Steve. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It has been a little while, but it's good to see you guys.
You are going to share with us today a major milestone for the Aptera team. We'll get into that in a moment, but first, Dominic, a very quick public service announcement on behalf of Tom. What's going on?
All right, so Tom is giving away a free Grizzly E Ultimate 48 amp smart charger from our sponsor, United Chargers. And let's see, that puts out 11.5 kilowatts, 48 amps at 240 volts. So any one of you can win it. Here's how. So let me just pull up this screen actually real quick. Share this. All right. So you can read all about this on the evchargingstations.com. That's Tom's website. And bookmark that too if you haven't already. So this week, Tom has been driving the Cadillac Escalade IQ. And of course, he's put it through his 70-mile-an-hour highway road test. And he's got 482 miles out of it, which is pretty wild. Let's see. I just want to adjust this screen here so we can get on there too. Okay. So then he turned around after that and did the range test again, but this time at a steady 60 miles an hour. So your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to guess the number of miles to the 10th of a mile that the Escalade IQ covered at a constant 60 miles an hour on the New Jersey turnpikes. Okay, so and you'll need to follow the EV charging stations on x.com and reply to the contest thread there, or that thread is linked in this article here. You can see if you go to evchargingstations.com, you can make it super easy and just find this article here. It's near the top. And then there's a link to that X account there. But if you don't have an X account, no worries. You can just leave your comments on this page on evchargingstations.com, and that'll work too. And that's basically it.
Excellent. All right.
I'm not sure what else to say about it.
No worries.
It's an awesome opportunity though to get a charging station. And the Escalade is a beast. Was it 482 miles? That's like as close to 500 miles as you can really get.
Do you want me to mention anything else? No, you've done that. So that is online right now. And let's get back into it. Our special guest, Steve, great to have you here. It's been a couple of years. It's a big day for Aptera, though. So we're so honored to have you back because we know For you on the West Coast, it's really, really early. There's a special live presentation happening later today, though. 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. That's 11 p.m. for me. I'll have my cup of cocoa watching that at home in my pajamas. Steve, what can we expect from Aptera today without giving everything away?
Well, I think you're going to see a parade of Aptera vehicles sort of in order of their completion date and design date, the different stages, alpha, beta, gamma, and then finally you're going to see Artemis, which represents our first vehicle going to full validation. When we debuted these vehicles at CES, Hermes was drivable, and we gave hundreds of drives around Las Vegas. But for the team to complete the mission in time, we gave them a very limited set of goals. The vehicle just needed to drive and have functioning solar. That's it. There was no interior. There was no air conditioning system. It was bare bones, and that vehicle still is bare bones because it's used as a suspension and braking development vehicle, so you can quickly change things out, bushings, that kind of stuff, which we're doing. Artemis, on the other hand, represents the first vehicle to have essentially virtually everything that's designed for the vehicle: air conditioning, the DCU computer, the touch screen, all the interior pieces, emergency cabin release, on and on and on. Every nut, bolt, bracket. Now, it may be, if there's a folded or bent sheet metal part, it may be produced on like a temporary tool instead of a hard steel tool, just because invariably in validation, you are going to find things. But the vehicle, like many manufacturers, has entered validation with all of its systems, some of them very mature and basically just needing like final tick the boxes, and some of them that are going to go through full validation from the very beginning. And hopefully we don't find bad stuff, but it's normal to, change bushings or shocks or brake pads and things like this to change the design of it during this stage. And so we're looking forward to kicking that off. It's going to be exciting because everything the vehicle has designed on it is on it.
So I had a little bit of computer issues going on at the beginning. I kind of missed the first part of that. Was it okay for you, Martin?
I think your screen share wasn't working. It was coming up with a blank screen, so I removed it and put a sort of slightly bigger. And so I guess the question is, Steve, that lots of people watching and listening will ask is that's all great, but how close are you to those people that have been waiting so long to finally get inside their own vehicles? Are you any closer to knowing when that's going to be?
Yes. I have to be very careful. Everything is related to funding. And I'm only allowed to talk about funding in a very specific way. And so I want to say it's positive. I don't just mean crowdfunding. The crowdfunding has been great, and it's got us to where we are. But the kind of next step that we need to get for production, that's something the finance team has been working on for a while. And I just want to say it's positive. That's all I can say about it, because if I say anything more, then I get in trouble.
You get in trouble
from a lot of people. Yes. But I would say the production part is related to that. The validation part is what we're doing right now with our current funding, which is great. It's a necessary step of the vehicle, because you have all kinds of parts of the vehicle, everything that's been designed. It's great that it's designed, but now it has to be validated. You have to test what you've designed to make sure you can even build it, or to make sure it lasts, or et cetera. The doors have to be closed 50,000 times, for example. So those are important things. It's not make work. It's essential stuff to make sure we ship a quality product, and we don't want to ship anything prematurely, even though I know our customers are dying for it. They want it. We want, it's a balance. You still want to hold open the door of being able to send over-the-air firmware upgrades as you discover things, so you want it to be as perfect as you can, but you don't want the perfect to be the enemy of the good. So it's a very tough balance.
Tom?
Yeah. So today when people tune in, I kind of missed the first part of this, so I just want to kind of just reiterate. So you'll have all the different Aptera iterations up until now, I guess, on display.
Yeah, we just want to show people, where we came from. The alphas, which are the sort of concept vehicles, just
Right.
to, when Chris and I restarted the company, we had to start from scratch. And so the alphas were showing that we could do that.
Right.
That was back when we were committed to in-wheel motors.
Right.
Somewhere around the beta or after the gamma stage, we decided for development reasons to move to the inboard motor. And so that's what we've had in Hermes, and that's what we've had in all the new generation vehicles.
Right. So, but now you have a vehicle that's, all the systems are in place and we're kind of ready to go, very like production intent. Basically, this is the vehicle with all the systems and everything.
Yes, if you look at Gamma, for example, the vehicle when you and I were in Abu Dhabi, the vehicle that we were expecting there, but it was being held up by the recalcitrant border patrol in Los Angeles, and it didn't even make the show. That vehicle looks very, it could pass maybe as a production vehicle, even though it's a prototype. But that vehicle was not made with. It was made with dimensions and surfaces that were representative of design intent, but many of the parts were one-offs, or they were made, in just cheap molds or stuff like this. It wasn't a production. That vehicle couldn't really be produced in volume. These vehicles, on the other hand, are made with mostly high volume processes, from the beak to the solar panels, everything else. So even the glass that we're using now for our solar panels are from our production supplier in Europe. Just to expound upon that for a moment, our rear deck lid, the solar lid, is the current panel that we have is a polymer panel. And polymer is great because it's lower cost. It's not as good performance as the glass, but there was no one in the world with an oven big enough to make the curved glass panel for our rear solar deck lid. And so our manufacturer in Europe only recently, even though it's not like a matter of funding, it's a matter of their development time, because we paid for it long ago. But our manufacturer in Europe was only recently able to complete the special oven and then develop the process to make this very large glass panel. We sandwich it with our matrix, our polymer matrix and solar cells here in California. But just making that curved glass piece was an extraordinary effort from someone who does automotive glass, for years. So that's just an example of some of the challenges.
How big is your reservation list now? How big's the queue for people who want one?
I haven't checked it recently. Last time I checked, it was around 50,000, and we haven't really tried to encourage more people to get reservations since for a while, simply because we've got 2 years of production ahead of us, and so that hasn't been our focus.
Now, I know we can't talk about future funding because this it's all fluid, but I can probably say that with over 100 million raised in crowdfunding, you've captured people's imagination. You've had one of the most successful crowdfunding programs of anything, really. You've raised a huge amount of money through just the community, a huge amount of support, and yet you can't be immune to, and I've seen it in the comments here this morning from people who I promise that, like, they're regular viewers, we know them, they're lovely people, but in the comments I can see, like, none of this matters until you actually ship. You obviously got a huge level of community support, and yet you can't be immune to those voices that go, I've been waiting for ages and it's still not here. How do you react to that?
I have to agree with them. They're right. If I were an Aptera customer, I would be frustrated too, because it has taken us a very long time. On the other hand, I think we've been as transparent as we could about being able to start production 9 months after the final round has been raised. There's lots of final tooling and things that are gated by that larger chunk of money. Now, the good news is, as we've continued to crowdfund, that larger chunk of money that we've needed has shrunk. So it's a smaller lift. But I think our customers, have every right to be frustrated with our delay in getting into production. I certainly would be too. All I can say is we're doing everything we can to make sure it's a quality vehicle, without problems, without bugs, without things that are going to break, and with software that works beautifully at all levels. I would remind everybody, if you look at it, if you break it down into its elements of our vehicle, it's exotic alloys, carbon fiber, 17 computers, almost 200 solar cells. It's closer to a spacecraft than it is an electric vehicle, and it has taken a longer time, not only because of funding, but because I would say most of the tier ones didn't want to work with us because we were a startup or we were a weird looking vehicle. And so things that we wanted to buy off the shelf, we couldn't. We had to develop ourselves. But that's resulted in something that's very efficient, very lightweight, something that we control the whole hardware and firmware stack, with the exception of the powertrain. And it's made for a better product. It's made for a product that we can upgrade. Virtually every microcontroller that's on the vehicle is ours. And so everything that needs to change and evolve will be done with over-the-air updates. We're not hemmed in by, I know a friend that works for an OEM, and their electric vehicle program, whenever they want to change code, it takes 6 months because they have to work with the tier one. They have to pay them millions of dollars and test, and then they get the code back. And there's no way big OEMs can update that quickly because of how their vehicles are integrated with other people's tier one parts. We don't have that problem anymore at Aptera. It was an unintended consequence of the tier ones refusing to work with us.
Just to continue on that stream about just difficulties. So Urban Strinkan, who's a regular viewer, says we were waiting for Aptera production version on the road for too long. Just look at Xiaomi going from idea to over 200,000 produced cars in 2 years. Well, Xiaomi is a huge company with a lot of resources and capital, like gigantic, huge. And so, I mean, what they've done is amazing over there at Xiaomi, but it's two very different kind of projects. But so, Steve, I just want to say, I understand that you're going to be doing a cross-country road trip now with this car a little later in this summer to showcase it as well as collect more data, I guess validation data. Will this be a tour where fans and reservation holders can come and see the car in person at different spots, and do you have a departure date set?
I believe so. We don't have a departure date set yet. It's probably going to be around the August timeframe, probably peak heat, which is great because we have air conditioning. But while that, I'm sure we'll collect some data. Its primary purpose isn't for that kind of validation. Its primary purpose is to be an ambassador for the brand, to show people the vehicle. We have Gemini coming online in just a few weeks, and that's another validation vehicle that's closer to production weight. I'll give you an example. Our battery manufacturer, there's heat exchangers on the bottom of the battery, and for a lot of reasons, for their process and the materials, the first temporary heat exchangers that we had were made of stainless steel, not the design intent aluminum. So Hermes battery weighs like 70 pounds more than it should. So there's stuff like that Hermes wasn't reflective of the production weight. So Gemini will be, and that's where we're going to be doing a lot of our final efficiency testing and powertrain validation.
Cool. So Aptera was the first company, I believe, to say that it would use the Tesla connector. And that was even before Tesla made the announcement that it would open up its network to other automakers. So for sure, the car is going to have the J3400 or NACS connector. But has Tesla said to you whether or not they will let Aptera charge on their network?
Yes. We were working with them about 2 years ago when we paused fast charging on our side because we were working with another manufacturer of BMSs who was acquired by an OEM. And then around that same time, we had cut ties with them because I said, look, we're not going to own anything, right? We're not going to own the firmware. We're not going to own really the design. We'll be trapped like this. And they wanted another couple of million, to finish the deal. So we said no. That's when we became vertically integrated in our own BMS. But we paused the DC fast charge integration at that time just so we could roll our own BMS. We have all of the equipment here to simulate the DC fast charging, and we have a connection with Tesla, who we were working with originally to set that up. But they, in the past, when we were working on it, they've been supportive, and I don't see any impediment to us doing that in the future.
Okay.
How does it? Let's take the second, your second stint, as it were, or the second generation of your Aptera journey. Even since 2019, the EV industry has changed enormously. Geographically, it's changed enormously. We see over 50% EV now in China. In May, June's going to be about 55% EV, and the majority of those are pure BEV in the world's biggest car market. Europe, probably somewhere between the two, and then the US, with policy and regulation, seems to be going in a new direction. What's it been like for you inside this pressure cooker to get this product on the market? And you've looked around and you've seen Fisker come with billions of dollars and not be able to do it. We've seen Northvolt, the battery cell maker, I think it's 14 or 15 billion euros, massively capitalized, couldn't make it work, and that's now being picked apart by people who want to buy the bits of the business. And here you are, still going. You're looking around, others are failing all around you, and they've got just infinite amounts of money. What's it been like for you personally, watching that evolution of the EV industry, and you're still trying to get this product out?
Well, it's been quite interesting. A lot of it's counterintuitive, but I would say, I've had, I met Dominic in Abu Dhabi. I lived in Abu Dhabi for 2 years. I immigrated there. Beforehand, I immigrated to Germany. I worked in Germany for 5 years. When I got out of the Army, I had to immigrate to stay there. And I've traveled and worked in probably 10 different countries when I worked for the family office in the Middle East. And what I've come to understand is that when we talk about the United States, we think of it as a country, and we roll up the statistics in terms of the country. But I think maybe a better way to think about it is every state is really its own country, right? Because the state laws and the culture and the economics are so radically different, let's say, between California and Mississippi. And it's really better to think about it like different countries. So if you look at it that way, if you go to California, where I live, all you see, especially in my neighborhood, are electric vehicles. Recently, I was in Texas, and I didn't see one electric vehicle the entire time I was in northern Texas, around the Panhandle or Texoma, that area they call it. So I think it's very regional, and it depends on lots of factors. All the vehicles there were pickup trucks, and they were diesel because they have to run, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles and carry lots of gear for the oil wells and things like that to service the oil wells. But where I live, you can function with an electric vehicle just fine. So I was going to say, I think with the change in the election, it's unfortunate that maybe some of the subsidies are going to go away, but we've never really built our plan around subsidies. Those would have helped. So that's the one thing that we're doing different. We're not hoping that we get some big $7,500 subsidy to make our vehicle affordable. We're trying to do it on our own. We're not hoping for handouts and planning around that. And so I think that's been one of the fundamental different things from our plan from the beginning versus some of the other companies that you mentioned.
Right. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know if you saw this. There was an article on Inside EVs this week, and I don't think I have it right handy, but it was just talking about the value of small startup companies and why the auto industry still needs them. So recently we've had Tello, which you're kind of related to, because I wanted to talk about that for a second in a minute. And there's Slate, and I'm sure there's some other ones I'm not thinking about, but those are like the big top of mind ones right now. Just like their value, because small companies will take risks and move the technology forward, like Tesla did. For instance, the OEMs were not pushing nearly as hard as they really needed to, to get like it took Tesla to be the first one to have like a 200-mile sedan, 5-passenger sedan on the road, instead of the Nissans or the Chevrolets or the Fords, etc. So the role of these like companies, these startups is like super important. I feel, to move things forward, and there are successes, right? Tesla obviously being the big one. So yeah, we're really hoping. I mean, it's been like a long journey for you, because for people who don't know out there that are watching, you began this journey back in the 2000s, right? The late 2008 or so.
Yeah, we started the company in 2006, the first company in my garage, and then Chris and I were asked to leave the company in late 2008, I think, early 2009, and he went off and started Flux Power and took it public, and I became a farmer, and that took me to the Middle East. It was only in 2019 that we decided to,
right?
Yeah, it was only 2019 that we decided to to revisit the whole idea, and we started the company from scratch.
So just waiting for Martin to come back. I'm not sure what happened. Maybe he has a little emergency over there, but you did mention earlier that you switched from in-wheel motors to inboard motor. Just how does that? Do you notice like an effect on the handling dynamics and all that kind of situation?
A little bit. I think the suspension team did a great job in integrating the in-wheel motors when we had them, and accounting for the unsprung mass.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they have a place in the vehicle at some point in the future for the rear drive wheel. But there was just much more development that was needed, and we just weren't in a position to do that development. It doesn't mean anything bad at all about Lafayette in-wheel motors. They're a fantastic company. They make great products, and they're very innovative. But this particular motor that we needed more development, and we just didn't have the resources at the time to do it.
Right. Yeah, I just asked because when in-wheel motors have been this like big thing since way back in like 2008. I don't know if you remember the Lightning over there in England that had that sports GT. It was supposed to it had in-wheel motors, and so we've been looking at this technology to become commercial for a long time, and it hasn't. And we thought maybe I'd see it with you. We just saw it with the pickup truck, Lord Motors,
Lordstown, yes.
Lordstown, yeah. But yeah, and then that fizzled out. But now Volkswagen actually is talking about using them on to make their ID2 car, like an all-wheel drive version of that. They're building that on this small MEB platform that's a front-wheel drive platform, but they're thinking of using in-wheel motors to make it an all-wheel drive. Yeah. So I just want to touch on that real quick, but I think we probably kept you for a long enough.
That's our half an hour. Yeah. Sorry,
I've got a hard stop. 2 minutes ago.
Okay. Well, look, Steve, thank you so much for coming on. Sorry, I had to dash. I've been waiting for those deliveries. They gave me the all-day window, and it's just as you came on, they made my deliveries.
Of course it would. That's the way it works.
Amazing. Hey, we'll be tuned in later. How can we watch that? Is it YouTube? How can we tune in?
I think it's going to be on YouTube. Yes. Just check for a link there.
Amazing.
Right. Just go to the Aptera channel on YouTube, and there would be you have
a
live show waiting for you you can get a notification, and but it's at 3:00 Pacific time or 6:00 Eastern time.
3:00 Pacific. The team has been working day and night for the past month. It's just they've done an amazing job, and it's going to be such a big reward for them to see it.
Amazing. We appreciate your time. It's early. Thank you
pleasure.
So much, Steve. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Right. Good luck.
Take care.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Amazing. Well, okay, let me flip that round so we look. That's how we look normally. That's how we normally look.
All right.
Hey, that's fascinating. I totally understand why there's so many people either in the comments or generally I see it online on Reddit and stuff, and they're so doubtful over the project. And as Steve said himself, like he totally understands it. He gets it. He'd be frustrated as well. And I sympathize with them. But there's something about this kind of scrappy startup culture that hasn't gone through the SPAC process of raising, $5 billion and then, couldn't make a car that would unlock itself like a Fisker Ocean. And, And you're like, where's all the money gone? I can't even use my bipper to get in the car. And yet here they are still going. They've got, staying power, and they want to get this vehicle on the road. And with all the people that are very doubtful about it, and we've obviously had tough questions over the years to the Aptera team. There's still like 50,000 people. That's just such a big community that seem to be behind it. Like, I just want them to win. I want them to get something out that is cool and brilliant and awesome. And, it's not going to sell in the millions because it's such a unique vehicle. But I hope they do it. I really hope they do it.
Right. Yeah, like I was saying, there's these small startups. They even when they don't necessarily, come to fruition, like they bring a lot to the table. Like Fisker, obviously big failure, but also it just showed that they'd really accomplished a lot, and it's a valid path. Maybe it wasn't quite fully baked the way but I feel like it's almost as much business practices as it was like the vehicle. It just shows that this kind of thing can be done, and it pushes the technology and innovation forward, basically. So all that said, speaking of innovation,
Kerry says, thank you for getting guests like this on to talk about these things, even if we have doubts.
It's okay to have doubts.
You know what? To have a CEO of a car company, whatever size it is, on to talk about the hard work that it is, I cannot imagine how many moving parts. Not physically, although yes, obviously physically moving parts, but just that you're just managing people and technology. And in 2019 is the second era of Aptera for Steve. Like, can you imagine that the EV world has changed? You talked about the change of technology enormously, right. And it happens. The story of the last 2 years, as you said, Dom, has been the story of China, where a mobile phone company can come along and go, "Oh, we'll make cars," and then we'll talk about that in a sec too. We'll talk about one of them today, and like the second one they're making, it's just amazing. So, wow, what a change that he's been through and he's seen, and that we've all seen. So, good luck.
So big changes in the automotive landscape this week, right?
Where do you want to start? Robotaxi?
Yeah.
Okay, so Robotaxi began Sunday with testing. We think 10 or 12 cars and riders, limited invites, those kind of investors that, backing Tesla were invited along. The podcasters, the YouTubers, the super fans were given invites. So this was a very limited, I think 10 mile by 15 mile, perhaps, small part of Austin, and each car has a Tesla employee sitting in it. Many people pointed out, interestingly, that they all had their thumb resting on the door open button. Theories on Reddit were that button had been remapped as some sort of kill switch or accelerate switch. Other people just pointing out, in FSD mode, if you open the door, the car stops, and it could just be they were told, be ready. In fairness to Tesla, they did let everyone post their videos online, because why wouldn't they? And that's where it went a little bit sideways. So yes, everyone invited were obviously very, very friendly. They're either people who are investing in Tesla, want to see the stock price go up, or they have YouTube channels or podcasts that preaching the benefits of Tesla. So all that said, they did launch a service. Yes, it was tightly geofenced. That Elon Musk himself has said, if you need to geofence, you don't have self-driving. He said that himself. But still. And so it's out there and it's working. They were charging $4.20, so 420, the marijuana reference that man-child Elon Musk seems so keen on. And, of course, we don't know when it's going to open to the wider public. Now those videos came out on X and on YouTube, and it wasn't without incident. We did see one of those videos that was shared very widely by a Tesla investor. Former podcast Rob Maurer put the video on of the car attempting to turn left, crossing double yellow lines, going into an oncoming lane before swerving back. He didn't edit that. He put it all on. It was you wouldn't see a Waymo doing that. It was pretty disastrous. Look, no one got hit. And the city of Austin have said we've had no official complaints about the system, although the NHTSA have said they've watched the videos, they are aware, or whatever they've said, they are aware of the media coverage and have requested further details from Tesla over these safety incidents. You hear other cars honking at them and stuff like that as it's coming into oncoming traffic. Also, they're not just regular Model Ys, as you know. They are driven, if they need to be, by teleoperators back at the war room, and we've seen pictures of that. It looks really cool.
Oh, really? The
yeah,
war room.
Yeah,
Okay.
like a giant room with all the big screens. So each Tesla has the 6 feeds coming out of it. So 6 screens, and if they need to, there's somebody in a chair with like a little steering wheel, like a Xbox controller, that can jump in and drive the car. And Dom, you got some news on this sort of extra hardware that helps that.
Yeah, well, so each it looks like a Model Y, like the new version of the Model Y, the Juniper, on the outside. But on the inside, on the back window near the top, there's another black box that regular Model Ys don't have, and we don't know exactly what's in there. But I think it's pretty much understood as probably another modem and other equipment that allows the car to continuously stream like all that video and all that data. As well as add redundancy to communications, because like say someone is operating the car remotely, they need, you have to have redundant systems in case something fails. You can't just have no control over the car remotely, especially at this point. We don't know when that's going to happen. So right now they still have like supervisor in the car. So I thought it was kind of weird that they have them in the passenger seat in the front. Like they can't hit the gas or the accelerator or brake, right? Or I mean, they could reach and get the steering wheel, I guess, if they wanted to. But I suspect that would turn off the FSD function probably. I mean, these are a little bit slightly different. The screens are different. It's like the front screen, it's the same screen, but what you see on the screen, I saw some video. It's just different things are going on there. So it was interesting to see all the different responses to this thing. There's a lot of skepticism in the wider world. Tesla's a polarizing company now at this point because of the CEO, and some people base their opinion on the cars and the company on their opinion of him. So, but we try to really separate those things out here. So yeah, the responses were kind of interesting. There's a lot of videos out there for people to look over, and there was I guess the general question is this a success? Is it going to be like going forward? Is this like a growing concern? Because like the Tesla is valued at like over $1 trillion in that neighborhood, and a lot of that valuation rests on its ability to do this thing, right? And everyone has different opinions. If you look on X and under Elon's stream, you'll find lots of people like pouring praise on the initiative and just compliments and everything you can imagine, and not a whole lot of criticisms. But off of X, there is quite a bit, because like all those videos came out, so people are looking at the videos and analyzing them closely and noticing like that incident that you mentioned, Martin. I think that's probably the one that really got people's attention at the from the get-go. The car is going down the road and it wants to make like a left-hand turn, and it does this thing, and my car has done this too, and this is like a pretty common FSD thing. I think the wheel is like back and forth, like it doesn't know, like it wants to go, but there's something kind of stopping it from going. And so it did that, and then it put itself out of position on the road, so it ended up going in the turn lane for the other direction, which not good, right? But it wasn't dangerous because there was no other cars coming that would use that piece of territory. So in that moment, it was fine. Then it got up into the proper turn lane, and did this thing. But there was other incidences where it's speeding.
Yeah,
So
they've been going too fast, and like one of the super fan bloggers, YouTubers, I don't know who it was, but I saw it reported by other media, justified that by saying, yeah, but sometimes you want to go faster to stay in the flow of traffic, and it felt natural to be going this fast. Like, that's nice for you, but it was breaking the speed limit. So like 29 in a 15.
Right, that's the big one, yeah.
I don't care if you're keeping up with traffic. There has to be a set of rules if you're in a self-driving car that
Right.
is, well, this is the speed limit. This is the law of the land. You don't get to decide, oh, I'll go a bit faster because everyone else is driving faster.
Right.
Or what? Oh, I'm going to quickly just gun it through this gap in the traffic because that's how somebody might drive if they're like, I don't know, a risk taker. So you just have to stay with a baseline set of safe rules, not be like, oh, I'll just do double the speed limit. Even though the YouTuber was like, yeah, but it felt safe. Like, I don't care. Like, that shouldn't be part of the code. That should be
right. It should not.
even if like
But that is
GPS
part of
speed
the
limit.
code.
Like the GPS speed limit is probably a few miles an hour difference from what the speedo might say sometimes. But even then, like, that's just a massive no-no. So there's still huge question marks for me. It seems to have gone really well in terms of the first launch. Everyone had kind of glowing praise for it, and it has come close to hitting things. It's slammed on the brakes in terms of phantom braking, and it came close to clipping another car in a very tight space.
Very
and that
close.
one, the employee had to drive the car away. So it's nowhere near, maybe where Waymo was 5 or 10 years ago, but they're doing it, and they're probably going to learn at a very fast rate of knots, you would think. But the key is, when do they start charging real people real money for real rides? And that hasn't been answered yet. But we're learning a lot. We're not even a week in yet, so they're learning a lot themselves.
Right. I think if this was in England, it would have been halted by now.
It wouldn't. No, you can't start it.
Right. It wouldn't even be a thing, right? But Texas being Texas and or America being America, we can be sometimes really lax about some things, which like I really don't understand. But that's like the speeding thing, like that. But that's part of the FSD package. Even my car, you can set it. You can set it to go whatever percentage over the speed limit up to a certain amount, right? And people, I mean, just to keep up with the flow of traffic, people feel safer when they're at the same speed as the traffic, rather than everyone kind of forced to go around with it. Because sometimes, people, the delta between the speed limit and what people are actually traveling at can be like 20 miles an hour difference, which is kind of considerable. So, and it could feel unsafe if you're doing the speed limit. So that's, I'm not sure what the answers are here exactly, but for like a self-driving service, so I really feel like it has to, strictly speed limits. That's just, I don't know how you can be, how a regulator could allow it to do more than that. And that's the thing right now. There is not really any regulation, but there is some coming because Texas just passed some legislation that's going to go into effect in September, I believe. Where, and let's see if I can find it in my notes real quick. Right, new set of laws come into effect that requires the operators of robotaxis to obtain a permit from the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles before deploying them without human controllers. So I'm not sure. The definition of human controllers could be nebulous somewhat because they could have people remotely controlling the car. I'm not sure if any of that's really happening yet. Or the person in the passenger seat, is that a controller? I feel like they're not really in control, but anyway, so it also gives the state the authority to revoke the permits if the robotaxis prove to be a danger to the public. And it also requires them to submit information on how the companies will coordinate with the police and first responders in case of a crash or accident. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out because it looks like they're giving Tesla lots of leash, like lots of leeway to kind of find its way and get on its feet. But it also looks like they better do it pretty quickly because if they can't have their permits pulled, that would be like a disaster for the company. I feel like.
Yeah, but also then they would say, well, it's not our fault. We had our permits pulled. We're not allowed to, do what we want to do. None of it is our fault. And I think that's what's probably European regulators will be watching that because the idea of going faster than the speed limit on European roads is would be unthinkable. The idea of, well, we will take your rules and then we'll play loosey-goosey with them. I'm not saying people don't drive faster than the speed limit here, but the idea that those set of rules that the US is working with could then be translated to European to European rules, and certainly in China as well. Yeah, again, it's absolutely unthinkable. So they might be learning a lot, but how much of that can then be directly ported over to here? I don't know. I don't think anyone should even think about FSD in Europe in the way that you're doing it for such a long time. They complain about how slow the rulemaking is, but also it's not really a problem that we need fixing. I know we talk about, well, it would make the road safer and we could do other things while we drive and all that. There are so many bigger problems that we need to be solving, that actually solving self-driving cars is a thing that if people want to work on it, that's fine. But it's not the biggest problem that we have to fix, and we kind of get by okay as we are. Could it be safer? That would be great, but let's not make things worse for the sake of some sort of ideology. But yeah, it's really interesting to watch, and hopefully Tesla will get there. They're certainly had their fair share of headlines. The stock price went up this week when it launched, and it's gone back down to exactly where it was before it launched this time last week. So it kind of had a bump, and it came down again. There's lots of people out there who, if you want to listen to critical voices, you can. There's a chap called Dan O'Dowd who posts on Blue Sky. He's very critical of Tesla. He has interests in technology that's competing. You have Missy Cummings, who used to advise at NHTSA. She's a leading expert in autonomy. She's been a vocal critic of the way Tesla is doing it. And then you have everybody who is the CEO of another AI company who uses LiDAR and ultrasonics and different hardware stacks that will go, there's absolutely no way you can do it with vision only. And yet in China, there are companies that have kind of moved away from that and have started to do some vision only stuff. So I don't think anyone knows the way that it's going to resolve itself.
Right.
But yeah, but good luck to everyone involved in that. I think it's been, what a week.
Right. I guess too, it's important to remember that its competitor Waymo, I guess, is really like the leading company in this space. They've been driverless since like 2019, I believe. They had safety drivers back in the day, but they don't have drivers now. But they have a whole different suite of sensors. They use LiDAR and radars and vision, and they operate pretty well. And they operate in Austin where this is happening. So. And they've just actually announced an expansion. They're in a bunch of cities, and they're just expanding now to Atlanta, Georgia. It was like 6 hours from me. So I haven't been in a Waymo yet, and I'm kind of curious. It seems to be just fine. They seem to really have it kind of nailed down. But it's still like a geofence technology. But I don't know. I think for people in those areas, that doesn't matter because they're not going to take the Waymo to like a different city or whatever, yeah. But yeah, it's like I was saying though, this is like a really crunch time. They really have. I feel like they have, a really short time to really nail down these details. I don't know how likely it would be for the Texas legislature to pull their permits or pull the rug out from underneath the program. I feel like they wouldn't want to do that since Tesla is like a hugely important company for that state. They hire a lot of people, they pay a lot of taxes, their employees pay a lot of taxes. They don't want to sink the company. And man, with so much value and so much just resting on this company's ability to do the Robotaxi thing, I really feel this is as critical a time in Tesla's history as there has ever been. I think.
So they make all of their money from selling vehicles at the minute. 10% of their business is not that, and they're not selling any vehicles at the minute either. So you're right; it's absolutely crucial, crucial for them.
Their sales are declining in a market that's expanding. That's a terrible sign, and the cars it sells are I think, and a lot of people who drive them and test them think they're really good for what they are. Maybe not quite to the level of some others in foreign markets right now, and we'll talk about that soon. But yeah, I mean, we all know what the situation is, I guess, really. But
yeah, I guess so. What we can do is we can touch on one story before we move off of Tesla, because it's what a week for them launching their Robotaxi service, and then let me see if I can share this screen.
Oh yes, some good news.
Oh, no, carry on. What is the good news?
Oh, maybe not good news. So I didn't know what you were going to bring up here, but I was going to say that, where is it? Oh, they have a prefabricated V4 supercharging. Oh, right.
I
So
was going to mention before we leave the subject that the pretty much if not Elon's number two, someone that had very much his ear inside Elon's inner circle, as it were, Ahmed Afshar was with the company since 2017, joined as an engineer, but rose through the ranks incredibly quickly and was head of, or he managed the senior management team in North America and Europe as well. And so with just days to go until the end of the quarter, we know from the countries that give us registration data, particularly out of Europe, actually, some of them do daily data, but some of them do monthly. We know Tesla is down 20, 30, 40% in places. We know China is having big issues because of the competition there, not because of anything else. That the person in charge, who Musk very much his inner circle, Ahmed Ashfar, was let go yesterday. Hasn't commented publicly about it. He did tweet at the weekend about the Robotaxi launch, and he still lists himself as employed by Tesla, but reports saying that they have got rid of him, perhaps in a preemptive move. Obviously, the month is almost done, and then they're going to have to start reporting numbers, and they won't be able to say, well, Model Y changeover affected Q1 anymore, and all the excuses that came out last time, which some of it was real and some of it was overblown to divert the attention of people who, I think they believe that a lot. But viewers, listeners to this podcast know that the issues are much bigger there. And and yeah, maybe that was a preemptive strike. So on the earnings call or whatever, they can say, well, look, the guy in charge has gone
sales
now. Has got. He came from SpaceX, and he was very much a very close ally of Musk's. But I think nobody is safe when the numbers are bad.
Right. It's a shame. Yeah, I feel like he's kind of like the sacrificial lamb. I don't know if I don't know. I can't say that it's his fault that sales are down, because if we look at the picture, if you've asked most people in the industry, I'll say Elon Musk is kind of the reason for the sales. His public image, is kind of what's driving the decrease in the brand's popularity, basically. So you can fire the sales guy if you want, but that's not going to really fix the basic problem that most people see. I think some of the drop off, the slowdown has slowed. It's not the sales figure; they're not as bad, like big percentages but they're still dropping. It's still going in the wrong direction. In most markets. There's a couple markets where there's actually increases. Norway for one, which is interesting.
Yes.
But I was just going to mention in conjunction with that, before I knew where you were going, we just had a little note in the news that we've been waiting on V4 superchargers for a long time. They've had the pedestals, but they've had the V3 cabinets to support those, so we haven't been able to get full speeds, so high voltage vehicles charge slower on them. But apparently there's some news now that there's been some V4 supercharger cabinets spotted in some engineering drawings coming up. So it looks like that the rollout of that is imminent, and hopefully we'll start seeing some better supercharging speeds coming up pretty soon, which is great because it's opened up to the every brand pretty much, or almost every brand now can depend on or use those the supercharger network. So yeah, that is a bright spot on the Tesla story.
Yeah. In other news, Mercedes-AMG revealed the concept AMG GT XX. This is a triple motor, or tri-motor, 1,341 horsepower sedan. It's a concept, and, Dom, you love to put a concept into the running order of the show, but you reckon it's production ready and will look like this car. Production version will be the first vehicle built on their new AMG.EA architecture, which is the hot stuff. 800-volt architecture, fast charging. The concept, and possibly the production version, can charge up to 850 kilowatts. That's not a typo, right? And in about 5 minutes' time, you're doing another 250 miles of range. The battery pack of the concept uses NCMA chemistry cells. The pack in the production vehicle will individually cool the cells using a special non-conductive oil. Not a whole lot of numbers available yet. We know it's going to be brutally fast, 0 to 60, under, I don't know, 3 seconds, 2 point something, I don't know. But this is an example of where, I think the German car makers are catching up with China, and certainly China with certain cars. We'll talk about it in a moment. Have been hitting those performance benchmarks, but doing it without a badge on the front that maybe outside of China people would pay big money for. If you're spending a lot of money on a car, you're probably not going to take a risk on a Chinese brand unless you are in China. And so we can see here Mercedes-Benz not only catching up, but putting out something that's a bit special. You reckon this is production ready then, do you?
I mean, that's. I mean, I think the production version is going to look very much like this. There's some tricky. The wheels have this special little thing where they kind of open up at speed to help cool things down. Like that might not make it to production, but the general shape, that whole thing, maybe looks slightly different. But that's basically, I think that's basically it. Yeah, which is
wow.
It's a pretty intense. So this is like a Taycan competitor, basically, like the super fast Taycan, because we're talking 1,341 horsepower. It's probably a 2-second car in 0 to 60. Yeah, it's got a little screen on the back, charging. It's got a lot of little things that we've seen in China already. The thing that the challenge now for AMG is to make this like half the price of what they're going to charge for it.
Yeah, but do they need to? I mean, I love Halo
maybe
cars.
Not now, no. But they don't now. But they may have competitors in their market before too long with a similar kind of vehicle.
Yeah, but they'll be Chinese and they won't have a Mercedes-Benz badge on the front. And you're asking a huge amount of money. Now, look, if you've got the amount of money to spend on one of these, you might want one of the Chinese ones in your garage as well, as an extra one. But yeah, I love that they're doing this. Mercedes-Benz, AMG, double the price of this. And who cares? Make it awesome, make it brilliant. The rest of us aren't going to have it anyway, so who cares what it costs?
Yeah, well, it's. I mean, this technology is trickling down to their, everyday cars too. This is not just, a one-off, whatever sports car fancy thing for the 1%. Yeah, this technology, it's a great showcase of where Mercedes is now. The road on the electrification highway has not been super smooth. They've come up with cars that work pretty well and do the things they need to do pretty well, but they're just not taking off like they should really. And a lot of that could be like styling or other issues, but this, I think, just helps to show that they're on the path. They're doing like you like to say the hard yards, and improving efficiency and trying new technologies and really trying to find their way to making better electric vehicles.
Yeah, I was talking to a Mercedes-Benz engineer 2 years ago that had just finished one of the long-distance runs they did in their concept car, the high-efficiency one. And it was either the run from Germany to Silverstone they did on a single charge, or I forget which one it was. But I was really impressed with where Mercedes-Benz were in terms of how they were looking at use case of EVs, because that concept car, that really high, what's the name of the really high-efficiency one? EQXX.
A lot of X's and Q's.
Yeah, like EQX. They were like, we don't care about the top speed, and we, but what we care about is doing whatever it was, like 10 miles per kilowatt hour, and we care about efficiency, and we care about thermal management, and we care about how far we can make a battery go, and we'll do stuff that's about top speed. But this is about learning, and then we want to put that in our road cars. And they weren't trying to do everything all at once for everybody all of the time. And I thought, this is really sensible stuff. So we'll get into a Chinese mainstream car that's causing Tesla headaches via the segue of a car that is in the same vein as what we've just been talking about, the Xiaomi SU7 Ultra. Yeah, 5 minutes ago, Xiaomi was a mobile phone tech company Now they're making cars that just broke the record that it set itself on the Nürburgring. Now, the Xiaomi SU7 Ultra was a prototype, the one they took round to set this crazy lap record. Not just slightly, it beats it by 20 seconds. 6 minutes, 24 seconds, the thing did. It's pretty highly modified, I'll say that. You can't go out and buy one of these and then just do that around the Nürburgring. The production version is 42 seconds slower, but that's still it's still like make your face hurt fast. But this thing, the Chinese, I think they've also sponsored a corner or a section of the track. So I think, money has changed hands as well at the Nürburgring, but sponsorship is always nice. And that SU7 Ultra prototype is, again, something that nobody's going to drive. Well, they're saying that. A ton of people in China are on the waiting list for them. They're ridiculously expensive, and they're selling everyone they can make. There is a bit of money in China. And so people are having them and driving them on the road and doing silly things. I think there's been a couple that have written them off as well, and I've seen on social media. They just can't handle the power.
There's one. Was it the Ultra that someone like broke into? They had it. I don't know what they did. It looked like they were in the city still, but somehow they had crashed so hard that they had broken the car in two, and they were sitting in the seat still, and they were not terribly injured, luckily. But there's like pretty much no car around them anymore. Yeah. But there has been a few criticism about the quality overall for the Xiaomi SU7, but I mean it's sold 258,000 copies in its first 15 months. It's a runaway success overall, basically.
Yeah. So the SU7 is the saloon sedan,
right?
Which has done 250,000 in just over a year, which, as you mentioned to Steve at the beginning of the show on the Aptera interview, it's just silly, isn't it? It's a crazy number, and they've still got a 5-week waiting list or something for it.
Right. So I guess the big news now. Can I introduce this one?
Please do.
All right. So the big news now is that the SU7, or the YU7, SU7 is the sedan. YU7 is the crossover SUV that launched just a few days ago. In 3 minutes, they got 200,000 orders.
That's crazy.
3 minutes, 200,000 orders. That's like, I think the SU7 when it launched, I think they were talking like 10,000 orders in like the first few minutes. This is like a what's the expression? Not a multitude above, but that Elon was always saying. Excuse me. Yeah, it looks like this will also be hugely successful, even more so. Deliveries are expected to start at the 1st of August of the SU7. I should pull up a picture of it here just so we know what we're talking about.
Yes, our friend over at Electrek, Fred Lambert, editor-in-chief, was one of those that got to go to China and drive the thing. And his report was very, very positive on this. Now, this is slightly bigger than a Model Y, so in every dimension apart from, I think, height. So it is, but not wildly. It's a little bit bigger than the Model Y in every way. And that just it translates to more interior space, more rear space, very important in China. But it costs significantly, an order of magnitude, says Stubby Stan 28. Right. That's the one, an order of magnitude.
And Stubby.
And Kerry and Anthony, thank you. And so, yeah, this thing, and I don't know if you can find any more pictures to flick through while I'm talking, because this thing is absolutely beautiful. As Fred points out, it has a bit of Ferrari Purosangue about it. I know where that's coming from. Design-wise, if this had come out of a non-China design house, I think we'd all be gushing over how amazing this thing looks. Technology-wise, it beats its competitors on just about everything, which I think is why they got 200,000 orders in 3 minutes for it. And they're ready to start making it in the first week of August. It's not a kind of, like a Tesla Roadster will see you in 10 years' time, maybe never. This thing starts in August. And yeah, look, this is aimed absolutely at everybody who was about to spend some money on a Tesla Model Y in China to go, don't do that. We're a Chinese company, support a domestic brand. There's a lot of pressure to do that in many ways. There's financial pressure, incentives, culturally. I've told you before on the podcast about how people can come into your workplace or your office building in China with a bunch of Chinese-made mobile phones. And strongly suggest that you upgrade your iPhone to a Chinese-made phone before you go back to your desk. If you'd like to get one now, please. And so, look, there's lots of things happened in China that are encouraging people to buy Chinese domestic products, and it helps when the products are actually a lot better and cheaper. So it's quicker, it's cheaper by about $1,000 or $2,000 equivalent. All of the specs are better. I don't think it's as efficient because the two battery sizes of this are something like 98 or 101 kilowatt hours. You did send me the notes this week on this, and that's a lot bigger than a Tesla battery. So that means they lose money because Tesla can do more with less. Tesla efficiency, I think, is just about the best out there, and so they thought, right, we want more range than a Tesla Model Y, so we'll just put more batteries in. Which is, they want the headline of it goes further. It charges faster. 12 minutes, 10 to 80 in 12 minutes.
That's with the
big
NMC battery, the big NMC battery that's in the Max. So there's 3 variants. The standard, I forget the name of the middle one, but
There's
Max is
I
the
think
top
Fred
one.
drove the Max.
Yeah, that's the top spec. So that gives you the NMC battery. The other 2 get LFP batteries that are a little bit smaller, but they're still big. So this has, it's like 10 inches longer than the Model Y, and it's so aimed at the Model Y. It's not a coincidence that Y is actually in the model name YU7. It's really meant to be a competitor to the Tesla Model Y, and so it's bigger. It's fast. I think it's faster. It definitely goes farther. It's heavier, but it's got the air suspension. It's got 5-link in the rear, and also I forget what the front suspension is like. But it's I'm sure it seems like it's handling well enough. I'm not sure. I haven't read any like really first drives from people who really drive, and I'm not sure if the road conditions they have them on there really allowed them to. To really get a really good feel of the dynamics.
It cannot be as good as if you've... Hey, Kyle's in the comments. I've just seen Kyle flash up. Good morning, sir.
Oh.
There we go. Hey, good morning. He's busy with doing some stuff that we can't talk about that Dominic's going to be involved with, but we'll maybe address that in our future podcast. And so, look, it simply can't handle at the limit better than a German car that they've spent 2 years of validation on mountain roads, on tracks, on the ice. I don't think it'll be unsafe, and I think it'll drive fine. And I think the majority, when I say majority, I mean like 99% of people who buy one go, yeah, this is fine. Like, I think if you can drive like Kyle can drive, and you know how to control and balance a car on the throttle and brake, and you can knock seconds off a lap time every time you go around the track because your brain is learning that much faster. I'm sure this is probably not as good as a German car that they've spent 2 years doing that to. There's a really good video series on YouTube or the Polestar website. Polestar are posting updates from their engineering team, their track testing team for the new Polestar 5, I want to say.
5, I think, yeah.
Like the expensive sedan performance one. Like they've spent probably 2 years tuning that. And I guess for Polestar, it probably has to be right because their markets are, not as China focused, outside of China market.
Right.
Is there this YU7 probably isn't the best of the best, but I don't think it matters. I think you look at the spec sheet, and you go, right, well, it goes 0 to 60 quicker. It goes farther than a Tesla. Most people won't care that it's not as efficient, that they've got that range by just loading it with batteries, and go, well, and it's like $2,000 cheaper. So, and it's Chinese, so I'll have this one. So really, really impressive. They're not even 2 years old, this car company.
Well, the thing is that you can get like a car that looks like the Ferrari Purosangue. It has better tech. It's faster. I'm not sure. Maybe not in the twisties. It wouldn't be as fast. I don't know. But it's only $35,000 equivalent. $35,500, $300,
Perfect family
$500.
car. Bigger than a Model Y. My wife would love this as well because she'd think it looks amazing and it's great for the family. And
right.
It's designed. I sent you guys a picture on our internal WhatsApp group, I think last week or the week before, of, I forget what it was. It was something designed by one of the Chinese companies that's just poached the old head of Audi design, and it looks like an Audi A8. And as long as it drives half as good as an Audi A8, then I think most people will be like, yeah, that's cool. I'll have one of those. I mean, there you go. Put us on the side. You can read the comments and not block Dom's face. And they're not trying to do their own thing. They've just gone out and hired all of the designers that worked at, whether it was Audi or BMW, whatever. They're all turning up to be, VP of something at a Chinese company. I'm sure they're very well compensated for that, and they're designing really nice cars. And so This is great. Wow.
This one's really interesting too. It's very customizable. So you have like instead of like a regular heads-up display on the screen, it's got like a little screen across the front. I believe another car, maybe BMW, was doing a similar screen, but everything's very customizable on the screen, so you can share information with the passengers. You can set that up. The modes are also very customizable, so you can set up your regenerative braking for yourself to be one full pedal or one. How do you say?
One pedal driving. Yeah. Oh, and you can shift the motor in without putting it in track mode, where you can move. I don't know why anyone would want to.
Oh yeah, you can put all the power to the rear wheels or all the power to the front wheels. You can do that. The Rimac does that. That's something that Rimac does in their cars. So that's like
again, maybe on different surfaces. Yeah, maybe on loose surfaces or whatever, you want more of a four-wheel drive feel, or maybe rear-wheel drive is more efficient. Again, the average driver,
right?
You can do this in track mode and stuff in Teslas, but the average driver, I'm not sure they're going to want to mess around with which motor gets the bias.
Right.
But they've put it into the software, of which runs their own version of software, which gives Tesla software, which is pretty much best in class, a real run for its money. But it comes with things like Apple CarPlay and stuff, which Tesla's already has always shunned. And so, yeah, this is the real deal, guys.
And it's also part of the whole Xiaomi ecosphere. So Xiaomi makes a ton of different products for your home, basically, and in your car they're going to have like little buttons that you can, I think, they almost stick on, maybe like magnetic buttons, like sexy buttons for the aftermarket programmable buttons for Teslas. So it feels like something like that you can interact with your devices at home through the app or through these customizable buttons in your car. I don't know, there's a whole lot going on with this thing, and it's just starting. We'll hear like a lot more about it in the future.
It does feel weird that my toothbrush is Xiaomi. It does.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's slightly weird, right? That I have a Xiaomi. It's Xiaomi Mijia, Mijia, if I'm saying that correctly, or Mijia.
Okay.
I have a Xiaomi toothbrush, and yet they also make one of the best EVs on the planet. It's just ridiculous. It blows my mind. We can't get this car yet, of course, but in China you can. And in China, they are also, July is going to be a crazy month for Tesla. So although Tesla is facing headwinds in the US and Europe for various reasons, in China, I forget, because you sent me the notes, Dom, on what these cars are coming out. Are in just the month of July alone. So you got the YU7 from Xiaomi, the Xpeng G7, which is a large SUV and costs 32 grand. The Onvo L9, that Onvo's a bit of Neo. This is going to be bigger than the L60, so the L90, bigger than the L60 for 28 grand. That starts at, and the Li Auto i8, cheaper than a Model Y, dual motor, 400 kilowatts, 5C fast charging from a C80L pack, and these are all cheaper than the Model Y, and so no wonder Tesla has a different set of problems in China that's not as simple as just saying to Elon, just do a bit less politics for a bit, or just give this car a facelift and it'll be okay. The company's really having to juggle so many different things in the places they sell cars around the world, and so in China, they really admire Elon Musk. The Chinese culture is to admire people who are seen as self-made. Anyone that's achieved a lot of financial success tends to be seen as, in a very positive way. And of course, Elon is seen as a self-made richest person in the world. So of course, they don't get any of the politics coverage because of Chinese media that the rest of the world gets, and so they don't really care. In fact, if anything, they really like Elon. So it's nothing to do with some of the other issues the car company's got. It's about, I'm sort of going to go for a Chinese company instead. So, man, oh man, and that's just the cars I mentioned are just the ones coming out in July, aiming absolutely head on at the Model Y, which is the big seller for Tesla in China.
The Envo L90 is a little bit bigger. The L60 I feel like is a more direct Model Y competitor. It hasn't done as well as they had hoped. So, none of these cars are slam dunks for any of these companies. The Li Motors is interesting because it's only their second EV. They mostly do plug-in hybrids and things. So their SUV coming out is like that could do pretty well. I don't know. Anyway, China's a very interesting scene, but just to touch back on the Xiaomi for a second. So the YU7, like you say, it's only going to be available in China for now. But Xiaomi should start a global expansion in 2027. So there's hope for if you live in Europe, and I would imagine the UK and Australia and other right-hand markets. The USA, not for a while, I guess. It's like we have huge tariffs, but I don't know. I mean, no, they don't. They can't overcome. I think even with the car being as good as it is, overcoming the tariffs and all the other friction for a Chinese brand to get into the US could be tricky.
We've got 6 new BYDs arriving in the UK in the next year. So the expansion, which has been talked about for so long, is absolutely on right now. BYD have got 7 or 8 of their own ships. They want to export 1 million vehicles a year out of China. So we've been talking about this wave is going to come one day, and then tariffs and the EU, and now a lot of that I think will be sorted out with what I gather is minimum pricing. I'm no economist. I can't explain minimum pricing to you. It just sounds like we all pay a bit more. They guarantee a lower that they're not going to just undercut everybody in the market. Somebody explain that to me if you're an economist, please. Doesn't sound like the consumer wins, but I think that'll all be sorted out some way. And now China's gone, well, maybe we won't import your French brandy anymore. So I think the EU will sort it all out, and those tariffs will be fixed. Whether that is building factories, there was a bid this week for somebody. I think they've got 3 bids, but one of them is a serious bid for the Northvolt business. So that'll be pennies on the dollar. And that's a ready-to-go battery factory in Skellefteå and some other facilities as well, which would, if it was a Chinese company, the administrator can't say, give somebody like a
Xiaomi,
Xiaomi or BYD,
CATL,
CATL, or any of the little sub-brands. I say little, they're all huge, but like the Fin Dreams sort of bit of BYD or anything that wants to separately, slightly do their own thing over here, could absolutely do that. And I'm sure they could raise the money, no problem, because they'll be getting that, whatever it was, 15 billion that Northvolt spent for certainly not that amount of money. So I think Scania got their bit of it, and Volvo got their bit of it, and now somebody else wants the rest. So that's all really interesting. Right, we'll finish off. Before we go, a couple of bits of news. Feel free to comment in the comments, and I'm sure we'll get Dom's input. Firstly, a US district judge, Tanya Lin, overruled the White House's freezing of the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Formula, NEVI formula program, which allocated billions of dollars for public EV fast charging and ordered charger funding to be released to the 14 states. 16 states and Washington, D.C. had sued the federal government, but Lynn ruled that D.C., Minnesota, and Vermont did not provide enough evidence that they would face irreparable harm if they didn't get the monies unfrozen. The order goes into effect from July unless there is an appeal. And so that looks like some of that NEVI funding, unless there is an appeal, has worked its way through the first bit of the legal system, and the states will get some of the money. It could be too late, though, because a lot of those programs had people working on those programs, or staff, or contractors, and agreements, and now it's been months and months. People aren't going to just work for nothing and wait to see if any money turns up, and they've moved on to other things. And so it has done some harm. I hope that money is unfrozen. And Uber are in the news as well. A lot of Uber drivers have now gone electric. 230,000 Uber drivers have gone EV. And it's not the purchase price of the vehicle anymore, or the monthly lease, or whatever they do to get their working vehicle and start doing Uber rides. It's, they say, charging, which is why it was a very smart move when Elon Musk fired the head of the charging program at Tesla, Rebecca Tanucci. And you could argue that one of the best bits of Tesla is the charging. It just works and is good. The person in charge of that was let go over an argument that she wouldn't fire enough of her team. I think when Elon Musk had set some arbitrary percentage numbers, all divisions must lose this many people, and so the story goes, she argued that the supercharging team's been overperforming, that they shouldn't lose as many, and he fired a lot of them to prove a point. She's turned up at Uber, and she's been there for the last 9 months. And that's a really smart thing, because Uber drivers are now saying, no, it's not the price to get in the vehicle, but now we need to make sure we can charge it. So do we charge our Ubers at home or in a shared Uber area or something like that? And so one of the best people in the world to have on your books. And so hopefully Uber will have some tools to roll out a solution to help cities decide where to place their next public plugs.
I was hoping this was a story about Uber like installing their own charger somewhere, which they did in I believe in England, in the UK. I think they put a bunch of chargers in one section of the town.
That's right.
And then they saw, but they know where the drivers live, so they put them in. They located them, conveniently for those people, and those charging stations saw double the traffic that other stations in other parts of town saw. So it sounds like they're kind of doing this similar kind of thing, just rolling out tools to help drivers find charging that works for them, that works for their Uber schedule. But also 230,000 electric Ubers cars. That's crazy. I think they said that was a 40% increase over like last year or something.
Yeah,
that's a huge numbers. That's things are happening. Things are happening, Martin.
Yes, they are with Uber. And so I'm having a look at the comments. Alex says, speaking of the UK, have you mentioned BYD? Oh, no, that's wrong. Sorry.
Oop.
Speaking of the UK, BYD. I joined late, says Alex. Did you cover the Octopus Energy V2G bundle launched on Monday? No, we didn't. Obviously, a lot of our audience are US-based, so when we put the running order together for this, this podcast is a little more US-focused. You can always tune into EV News Daily. I hear it's not too bad to hear about the global EV industry. It's a daily podcast that I do every single day. Point your podcast players at the things that make it download. So Octopus are the biggest energy company here in the UK. BYD are the world's biggest EV maker, and they are using one of the big EVSE producers as well. So vehicle to grid's been around for a long time. Japan's been doing it forever. A disaster relief, and they had CHAdeMO, and bidirectional exists. But what we've always needed is for an energy company and a car company and a EVSE producer, a wall box maker, a home charger, in one simple way to go, this is the price and here's the car and this is what you've got to do. And that's what the UK did this week. And so Octopus launched that, I think, from August or maybe September onwards. And so with BYD, and I forget the car, maybe the Sea Lion or Seagull, I forget which one it was, but they're launching it with one car. Here's the lease price. You can have it for 3 years. You have to be on our energy tariff. Seagull, there you go.
It is Seagull, yeah.
And it'll cost this much per month, and you get free electricity if you plug it in for, it was something like 240 or 220 hours of the month. So that's not particularly onerous. All you got to do is get home every night and plug your car in. And then Octopus, with their back-end magic, it's called Kraken, which is their what they sit on top of. And they sell that to other energy companies as well. So they license that. That's the kind of secret sauce that makes Octopus so good. And it will manage the energy in your car, the energy in your home. It'll sell it back to the grid. They'll do some energy trading. You get free electricity. You get a great car. You get a wall box installed at home. And it's our biggest energy company. This isn't a small trial project in a town with 20 cars, which we've seen for years and years. And we've all been saying, when's V2G going to happen? This could be the moment. In quite a large car market, the UK is now Europe's biggest EV market. We've surpassed Germany now in terms of EV sales. So we're doing it in a decent sized market, and it could be the real deal. And if they do make it work and add more cars to the scheme and more people end up doing it, well, then you do get to this kind of nirvana that we've all talked about for years, and all the energy companies would love to be the new oil companies of the next 100 years, which is you would end up with millions of distributed EV batteries around the grid, and you can manage the energy in those, sell it, buy it, and Tesla do it. Tesla have got a virtual power plant running over here as well. They used to run under Octopus. Now Tesla have got their own thing over here as well. So everyone's giving it a go, but this is one price for the car, the charger, everything. And Octopus tend to do things pretty well and market them pretty well.
So it's a BYD Dolphin, and it's a V2G Zaptec Pro charger that comes with it as well, and then access to the smart tariff that offers completely free charging at home. Completely free charging at home. I mean, what more do you want?
So you've got to have it plugged in for a certain amount of hours per month, so you can't take the mickey with the scheme. But yeah, I'm tempted to put my name down on it. Octopus are a sponsor of EV News Daily, so I'm sure I could email them and say, stick me on the list. I quite fancy seeing what that's all about.
You want to drive a BYD?
I want to do it for vehicle to grid and play. And see if what we've been talking about for years actually works in practice, which is EVs become part of our energy in the future. I think that's the theory. That's the theory.
Yeah, I mean, they should be helping the grid, basically help stabilize the grid, strengthen, make it just more, capable of dealing with huge power surges or drops or whatever. It should. Electric cars are there to help the grid, not to, for forever people have always said, oh, the grid's not ready for electric cars. Well, the EVs are helping it get better and better for not just the EVs, but for renewable energy, all the things, basically.
Linda has beaten you to it. Oh, Linda, what? This is Linda. No, never beat Dom to the line. I put it on screen for our audio listeners. Linda's already said ciao. Like she got to the V to G discussion. She's like, I'm off. I'm out of here. Ciao, everyone. Easy now, Linda. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Hey, thank you very much for...
Greg's in there too. It's just...
come on. I've had it with you lot. Thank you for watching this week. Tom returns next week. Dom, are you going to be here next week? Because you're doing a thing with Kyle that we can't talk about.
I'm not exactly sure. Everything's so much in flux. I can't really say for sure. Hopefully I'll be here. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And yeah, we just don't know where from exactly.
But if he's doing one of these big things that out of spec do,
there's a chance I might not be able to make it.
There's a chance that you'll be, I don't know, in Alaska or something. So who knows? Doing something with
not
some interesting cars. Or things. But we'll stop now. Thank you very much for watching and listening as always. If you watch this show on YouTube and you haven't yet hit your podcast app on your phone or your device and signed up and subscribed for free to the audio version, you can do that, and that way you get us in your ears or your eyeballs, wherever you are in the world, when we put a new show out. We've got some midweek shows coming up, some interview shows coming up, which we're really excited about. Oh, and we'll see you later as well. We'll tune into the Aptera live stream and see what is going on with them. Hit subscribe and then tap the bell icon for notifications so you never miss what we are talking about. And we couldn't do this without you in the comments, as always, because we absolutely love to see what's on your mind every Friday. So thank you for joining us live if you did. Tom can fill us in with where he's been going in his Escalade IQ next week when he's back on the show. But thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again very soon. Hey, Tom! You know what to do.
Right after I remind you to go EVChargingStations.com. Win a free charger. 48
right.
48 amp smart charger from United Chargers, Grizzly E Ultimate 48. Go to EVChargingStations.com. Guess how far the Escalade went at 60 miles an hour, and and
win a charger.
Win a charger.